Donald Trump is spending his last full day as President of the United States before Joe Biden is sworn in tomorrow as the nation's 46th president. But in a break with tradition, Mr. Trump will not be attending his successor's inauguration, and he's decided to fly to his resort in Florida sometime in the morning. Thousands of soldiers have been deployed around Washington, D.C. in the biggest security operation ever seen for a presidential inauguration, as much of the U.S. Capitol is, of course, being protected. That's the home of American democracy. It's been fenced off following the riot by Mr. Trump's supporters a fortnight ago. And so on the eve of that inauguration, let's join our North America editor, John Sopel, who's in Washington.
Hugh, it's been a presidency that has defied all convention, and why should it end any differently? Joe Biden has now arrived in Washington, D.C. a few moments ago, and he's going to spend the night just across the street from the White House. But Donald Trump and Mr. Biden will not meet. Instead, tomorrow morning, Donald Trump will be up early. He's awarded himself a military parade at Andrews Air Force Base, and then the inauguration without Donald Trump will take place. Just a mark of how bitter relations have become between the president and the vice president, Mike Pence has decided that he will skip the Donald Trump leaving do, but attend Joe Biden's inauguration. Where once a sea of faces would greet the incoming president as he stood on the Capitol steps, tomorrow it will be flags, thousands and thousands of stars and stripes. This is partly about COVID, but even more so now, about security. The entire National Mall, which stretches for 2 miles, has been closed off. Washington, D.C. has been transformed into a fortress with 25,000 National Guardsmen drafted in. Razor wire and fencing everywhere. Now nearly 2 weeks on from the storming of Congress by a mob incited by Donald Trump.
We fight like hell, and if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
The shock in America over that attempt to overthrow a fair and free election seems to deepen with each passing day, not dissipate, and Washington has become a city on edge. The last time the president was seen in public was a week ago when he went to the border wall, something he'd point to as one of his achievements from the 4 years in office. But it will be his behaviour since the election that will be his lasting legacy. The most audacious and unexpected foreign policy move came when Donald Trump flew to Singapore to meet his North Korean counterpart, Kim Jong-un. The meeting diffused tensions but has done nothing to slow North Korea's nuclear programme. Here, Donald Trump's election plans were upended by the COVID outbreak and the damage it did to the US economy. Coronavirus didn't cost him the election, but his erratic handling of it and occasionally bizarre statements didn't help him.
And then I see the disinfectant where it knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection?
And just a little later, America was convulsed by the death of George Floyd at the hands of a white policeman. Amid the protests and rioting, Donald Trump saw an opportunity to present himself as the tough president of law and order. Tonight, he's issued a farewell video.
This week we inaugurate a new administration and pray for its success in keeping America safe and prosperous.
But there's still no concession that he lost. And now impeached twice, it will be what's happened in America since the presidential election that Donald Trump will likely be remembered for. He still faces a tricky Senate trial, with the influential Republican leader, once a firm supporter, piling in.
The mob was fed lies. They were provoked by the president and other powerful people.
But from tomorrow, the focus will be on Joe Biden, today leaving Wilmington, Delaware for the last time before he's sworn in.
Well, excuse the emotion, but when I die, Delaware will be written on my heart.
There'll be a flurry of announcements and actions in his first days in office. But perhaps the overriding goal will be to lower the political temperature and bring a fractured nation together. It'll be a Herculean task. And today, in Donald Trump's final day in office, the grim death toll from coronavirus passed 400,000. 1,000. It's going to be one of the biggest challenges that Joe Biden faces when he takes over, to improve the rollout of vaccines, to get more people to wear masks, as our correspondent Nick Bryant reports. And I should say his report does contain flashing images.
We normally associate New York with the self-confidence of America. But the coronavirus crisis has shown us the frailties of the world's most powerful land. In the final weeks of the Trump presidency, there have been days where more than 4,000 Americans have died, a higher death toll than on September the 11th.
It's bizarre, it's scary, it's frightening.
Angelina Proyer lost her father.
They're not in the same reality. I mean,
her mourning made more painful by family members who refused to believe the coronavirus took his life. She's angry at Donald Trump for spreading misinformation and downplaying the pandemic.
Furious, angry, confused, disconnected, abandoned. Those are all ways to describe how I feel. There are 350,000 plus people have died, and it doesn't seem like any of those people matter. I mean, it's insane.
We've seen queues for COVID testing. We've seen queues for COVID aid. But there's hope at the end of this line of medical staff and teachers. A school gym that only weeks ago served as a polling station has now become a vaccine hub.
And done.
Much to the relief of New Yorkers such as Michelle Kleinbaum, a teacher on the educational front lines.
I've been working in person pretty much since the beginning, and it just feels like a weight's been lifted off my shoulders that I can go back now with a different peace of mind.
Joe Biden has set the goal of 100 million doses in the first 100 days of his presidency. And despite concerns about vaccine supply, here we witnessed a can-do spirit that's so emphatically American.
Better?
Yeah. There's been so much despondency in this city for the past 10 months, but this is really the turning point.
I believe it will be the turning point. We're going to get New York City back up and running in no time.
A little bit more spread out. Give yourself 6 feet. Give yourself 6 feet.
This isn't just a health crisis, it's been an economic catastrophe. And in the city that never sleeps, we're seeing food banks now having to open 24 hours a day. Joe Biden is promising an almost $2 trillion rescue package.
The challenge is enormous. The crisis is huge. But America is strong. And I believe and I'm hopeful that the president could turn things around.
There'll be talk of a new day in America. But will the Biden presidency really be a panacea? The politics of this country are so sickly, the divisions are so deep. The coronavirus has revealed so many American ailments. Nick Bryant, BBC News, New York.
And undoubtedly there will be a lot of talk tomorrow about a new era starting in America. And of course that's true to a certain extent. There'll be a new occupant in the White House. But the problems that Joe Biden inherits don't just disappear with the 46th president starting his term. And you can tell that by the security that we can see behind me that's had to be put in place following the bitterly contested election, the division, the 74 million people who voted for Donald Trump, who still may feel that they need some convincing. And I think that is going to be the focus of Joe Biden's inaugural address, that this is a time of grave national peril for the United States of America, and that it is time for the people to come together. The words will be powerful, but delivering it is going to be an uphill struggle that will probably determine the success or failure of the Biden era. Hugh.
John, we'll be back with you in Washington tomorrow. Thank you very much. John Sopel there, our North America editor.